Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining another DevTest Community webcast. Today's topic is the integration between DevTest 10.2 and CA Agile Central. On the phone today we have Dan Mazet. He's an engineering services architect with the DevTest product team. He's going to give you a presentation as well as a short demo on the integration. As we're going through today's session, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put those in the Q&A box. That is the box in the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. If you don't see it maximized, you can click the blue box with the question mark in it at the top right to expand the Q&A box. You can put your questions in there, and then we'll go ahead and get to them at the end of the session today. Also, at the end of the session, we'll be opening up the phone line for any verbal questions. So if you have a question you'd rather ask over the phone, you can hold it until the end, and I'll let you know how to unmute your line at that point. Okay, I'm going to turn the call over to Dan now. Take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Mel. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Mazet. I'm an engineering services architect with CA. Today we want to demo the CA Agile Central DevTest integration for you. Both products are CA products, part of an end-to-end continuous delivery solution that we have offering, and we'll focus specifically on this DevTest and Agile Central integration. So first question, of course, what is DevTest? What is Agile Central? So the idea is that as companies become more DevOps and Agile-oriented in release planning, right, it's important to have sort of an end-to-end workflow from design and development and testing and back again as a cycle, right? And to facilitate this, we have integration between a lot of these solutions. This one in particular allows you to automatically synchronize and test cases and test results between products. Right, so there's no need to manually go in and update from pass to fail. Right, as we run the test, depending on if it works or not, we'll update the result automatically. So that's the whole idea. There's some nuances. We use the build number. You need an API key and all that. But once you set it up, it's pretty seamless. So I'm going to give you, I kind of like to do it twice because it reinforces the idea. I like to go through some slides with screenshots and steps, and you can get these slides afterwards and follow along and kind of do it on your own. This goes along with the product documentation. In between those two, you're pretty set. But I'll also give you a demo, right? I'll configure this, and you can see it live. So you'll see the slides and you'll see the demo. So I'll kind of go through the slides a little bit quicker, and we'll spend a little more time on the demo. But this is the idea. This is the workflow. We'll use 3 different interfaces. One of them is Agile Central, which is a web-based interface. We'll create an API key that we can use. This is communication between the solutions. It's all API-driven. We'll create a test case in Agile. We can attach it to a user story. If you're familiar with Agile Central or Rally, as it was previously called, you should be familiar with the concept of a project and user stories, test cases, defects, et cetera. And they can all kind of be linked together. So we actually link any defects to a user story and test cases to a user story. That's kind of our main object. Once we do that, we'll go to Workstation. Workstation's our main UI, very powerful tool. You can edit test cases there, which is what we'll be doing. We can run the test case there, and I'll show you how that works. And then we can also use the portal, the third interface, to also run the test case and view the test status. Right? So I'll show you both ways, through portal and workstation. And then we'll go back to Agile Central and view the result. And if there's a defect, if the test case fails, we'll create a defect and attach it to the test case or the user story, however you want to do it. So let's go next. So first step is we create, and I'll go through these slides a little bit faster. In case you want to review this, you won't have to sit through it for an hour. But basically, we'll create an API key. We'll copy it over, save it to the side, and then we'll paste it later into the DevTest workstation. This is the communication between the two solutions. So you can see this is the Rally or Agile Central page where you create the API key, kind of standard stuff. And then we paste the API key into the properties file in DevTest. And this allows the two products to talk to each other. Another thing we need to do is add a report generator. Okay, this is what actually formats and publishes the results to Agile Central. So there's a default report generator that we need that we'll keep, and we'll also create a new one. There's a specific one for Agile Central. Okay, and it's a pretty standard process. Show you that to the workstation. One thing to note is that we can define a build number here, and we can use this to identify the build, right, the version of the product that we're testing, and we'll link this in the test case. We can specify it in a properties file and at runtime. So there's kind of two ways to specify a build number, but we specify it here as a linking, kind of a way to link the two. And so we go here, click the plus sign, create a new report type. This is all in Workstation. We create a test case in Agile Central. If you're familiar with the portal, it's a web-based portal. Click around until you find the new test cases icon. There's kind of two different interfaces that they have. There's a version 1 and a version 2 interfaces. Kind of the version 2 interface is not as clean as elegant, but still very functional. One thing that we do need when we do this is test case ID, which is different than the test case number. So I'll have to show you those two, where you can grab those two. And again, you save those later. You build the test case, and you only have to do that once. So in the portal, you'll click on test cases, create a new one, and you'll give it a name. When you give it a name, it'll create the ID, and you have to kind of go back and copy paste it. So I'll show you that. You can select a type, a method for the test. Is it automated? Is it a UI test? Is it a usability test? Whatever it is. Give it some parameters. The rest of the stuff is optional, and then you'll see it gets listed, right? So that created the test case in Agile Central. Now we've got to create the test case in DevTest. So the test case name is important. You always want to use the Agile Central test case number followed by a hyphen and then give it some descriptive name, and those two names have to match up. Okay. When you create a test case in DevTest, you'll need to give it a REST call to update the status of the case pass fail. You'll give it things like a name, a number. You can give it a build number, a date and time if you want to, things like that. Some of the stuff is stored in properties in the config file, and some of it is in the test case itself. So here we've created a new test case with a couple steps. We're specifying a name, the ID number, which we have from Agile Central. That's the second line. And then we'll give it a post command going to Rally. Rally1.rallydev is the Rally URL, and it's a create command. Next, there we go. So this, I think this is the pass test. So we've just got a build number, a date, and a verdict equals pass. For a failed one, we'll actually say failed and create a defect. Yeah, so this is the next step where we're actually creating a defect. So we added in another step for the defect one where we're making an API call to actually create that defect and attach it to the test case. Then we run the test, right? We can run it in Workstation, we can run it in Portal, and we also have the option to specify the build number at runtime or kind of globally using the config file. So here you're specifying it at runtime, just an additional property file that you're giving it. Probably easier to do in the config. I think that's the way I have it set up in this demo, so we'll see both ways. And then you can take a look at the result. We'll do a one pass and one fail. The fail is really more interesting, so I'll spend a little more time on that one. but you just go to Rally and you go to list the test cases. And below the test cases, you see the verdict. This is in Portal, just a different kind of view, showing you the list of test cases that were run. This is giving you a little bit more insight into the test case. This is a request that was sent, and this is the response that we have. This is for the defect, creating a defect. And then you see here, we link to the test report. We say it's passed, what version it is, what build number it is based on the data that you input, the build num that you specified. Okay. And this is the defect itself. This is kind of the older view, and if we go back, this is kind of the newer view. So you see they look a little bit different, but if you navigate on the left-hand side to defects, you'll see the defect. And then you have the test report. This is a DevTest test report that it links to in PDF, so you can save that. These can get very long, but you have the information there if you need it to download it. Okay. And this is just viewing the defect again. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'll kind of go into the demo. Let me just bring that up real quick.
Yeah, no questions in the box as of right now. So.
Okay. So. Okay, so let's start with this. Let's go back to our workflow, our steps. First thing we need to do is create a key, and there's actually a special page that we'll go to in Rally for that. We'll go to API keys up here. Don't write these down. I'll delete these afterwards, but I'll just create a new API key for you. So go up here, click New API Key. This assumes, of course, that you have an Agile Central account, right, a Rally account you'll need access to, and then you'll have to go to this URL. So give it a name. This is just a descriptive name. Can be anything you want. And you're going to need to make sure to give it full access. I'll say create this little key we created with the underscore, and we're just going to copy, save this, okay? You're going to need this later. Next step. Once we have the API key, we have to go to DevTest. This is my DevTest box. And we'll have to go to our Lisa home directory and paste in the API key. So your Lisa home directory, on Windows at least, it's C program files, CA DevTest is the default location. On Linux, it's usually an opt CA DevTest, but you can, of course, change that, so it might vary between installations. And then we're going to go look for the site properties file. This is a standard properties file you should be familiar with, right? There's Lisa properties that never modify. Then there's site.properties, and there's local.properties, which you're free to modify. This one is traditionally stored in site.properties. So in the site.properties file, we have a number of parameters. I'm going to scroll down to the section that says Rally, and you can do a Control F, or if you're on Vim, I think it's / and search for Rally. Right, the older name of the product is Rally, so everything kind of starts with that instead of Agile Central. So if you do a search for Rally, you'll see a section called Rally API Key. You paste it in unencrypted once you run the registry, it encrypts it. So this is showing the the encrypted one. You can just paste in your new one. Now we can get DevTest and Agile Central talking to each other. Okay, so let me go to the report generator. Let's do that. We'll open up the workstation. I've got a sample file here that I've created. It's got some simple test cases. Yeah, I guess we can use that. That's better than copy pasting everything. Save you some time. So if I go to my staging document, my staging document is going to tell us how to run the test case, number of instances and cycles, any think time, any artificial delays we want to add in, right? And when I go to the Reports tab down here on the bottom, I'm going to have a report type. So I have two. I have the default report generator, which we have to leave. Don't delete that. And I have my Agile Central report generator, right? So I already have it. Let me show you how to add it. Just click the plus sign. New one's created, and you select the type you want. In our case, it's Agile Central report generator. And you want to specify, this is called, they call it the build number and launch state key. And it's always build num to identify the build number, okay? So we already have it, I'll just leave it. So now you've kind of done the prerequisites to enable communications between the components and ensure that the DevTest can communicate with Rally and update the test cases properly. Okay, so now you can create your test cases. This is where all the fun is. You know, you're going to have all kinds of cases, but really what you want to do is, I like to do this in Rally first, Agile Central, right? So this is our main page. When you log in, you go to your Rally URL, whatever it may be. You'll probably have a default project. I have a couple different ones. So it's important for me to select the right one that I want to create the test cases in. So let's say I'm using this test workspace. I need to make sure that's my default profile. I have to go to my settings. I have to go up here to my edit profile. And just scroll down to the section where it says default workspace or project, okay? And make sure that the one you select is the one you're going to be working on. This only really applies if you have multiple ones. Typically, you know, say a QA engineer might just have one. In a large organization, you could have many different projects. Okay, so to create a test case, we'll go to quality. Everything for tests is under quality. And we'll go to test cases. And again, this is kind of the older look. You'll see some different looks and feels here. But this is the older environment, test environment. So I go to Actions and say New Test Case. Okay. And there's a few required fields, right? You need a name. I do need the test case ID, so we'll have to put that in. I'll say test case pass. Just call it something. You're the default owner, and the project is the one that you're in, right? Type, let's say this is a regression test, and let's say it's an automated, right? Because we're going to run it automatically. You can give it, of course, your steps, your expected results, all that good stuff. Different release version, okay? Lots of different things you can do. Just save it. We'll do the minimum required fields. And once you create it, you'll get this ID up here. It's created down here. We'll open it. You have this ID number, this test case number. You'll want to edit it and just include that test case number in the file name, okay? That's important. And then save that file name. And we're going to use the same test case name in DevTest in Workstation, okay? There's also this ID up here that you're going to need. So we'll save that too. and then we'll go back to DevTest. So in DevTest, we'll go to Tests, we'll right-click and say New Test Case. We'll give it a name, the one we had before. And we'll get a blank test case. This is going to vary depending on what you want to do, right? You might even have them created already, and you just want to do the integration step. So let's assume you have a test case created. Maybe let's use the fails one. So let's assume there's some kind of test that's running, and at the end of it we have, we'll add in these. And this is going to be the REST calls that communicate with Rally. So we've got some information here that we need to populate. These are unique to the integration, right? So we'll have something called a test case name, and we'll just give it some kind of name. A test case ID, which we had from the URL before. Up here, right? So you'll paste that in here. And that's going to set our properties for our test case. We're going to define which test case we want to modify so that we can link it to this one, right? Then we have this is actually going to make the test case result as failed, right? So if we take a look here, this is a post call to Rally, to Agile Central to create a result. And the result is going to include this build number that we have specified, and there's a verdict. You can do the date there too. And those are coming from here, from the project's config file. So I just specified fail as fail. Build number is actually build number 2 that we're using. So it'll be 301. Let's change that to 501. This is our API key. We call it the Z session ID. And if you want to also add, so this is used for pass or fail. If you also want to, for the fails one, create a defect, you can do that too. So there's a defect to create. A little different than the other one. This is test case result create. This is defect create. And there's a whole list of these. You can do some other stuff with them too. So there's a few things we need to specify for the defect. You need the name of the defect. And then you just have to give it a test case ID, which we already specified, right? So I'm just using a property there. And give it a descriptive test case. Maybe this is a regression test case, and this is maybe the suite. Let's say the test suite. So this is a global, fail. Go back and check it. Okay. Once we set the properties and the test cases, we can run it. Let's see if we modified that. Not save that. Okay, so we'll use this one. This is my 199.036 test case. It's going to fail it, and it's going to create a defect. Okay, and the build number, let's just double check. The build number 2 it's going to use, and this is what we set to 501. So we should see 501. Okay. So we can run it here, or we can run it in Portal. If you want to stage it, just right-click on the test case, do stage, and we'll use our staging document, the one we specified the report generator in. We'll run it. Give it a couple seconds to run. There we go. Okay, so it looks good. Started, test ended. If you want to see that too in Portal, we can take a look at that in Portal. The portal layout's a little bit different. We have create test cases here too. We have manage. Once you create them, they kind of go into this pool where we can see all of them. And once you're running them or deploying them, you can monitor them. So since this test we ran already, it's in this monitor section. And this is it. 46545. We ran it. Yep, that matches up. Took 4 seconds. Let's see what it ran. Should be the same steps that we have in Workstation, right? We have setting our properties. We have updating and creating a defect. So this is setting the properties. This is updating the test case results with our key. And then our last step, right, because it is a failed example, is creating a defect. So it looks like it worked and we captured all of the transactions. Let's see the test itself. Let me go back to quality, test cases. So back in Rally, this was the 46545 one. And this is the build number that we specified right in the properties before. We changed it to 501. Time's a little off because it was server time. But this matches up, so we know it's the right one. And we should have a defect created, okay? So if we go to defects, we should see a defect created for the test case. So looks good. This is the description that we had, right? This is the title that we had. Of course, you modify these as you need, and you can specify other parameters as well. But for this example, with the failed test case, you usually want to create a defect, right, to enhance the workflow. Now the team can go back to the either user story or the test case, and they can see that it failed. You set this to run, I don't know, every day. It's a really nice way to kind of automate the process a little bit. You don't have to go back and compare things. Really all updated automatically, and it's all through APIs. There's a whole list of calls you can do. This is just one example between DevTest and Agile Central. We have other integrations as well that are quite nice. And if you want to see them all linked together, there's a new version of the EndtoEnd Demo available. I believe it's just called the EndtoEnd Demo. You could probably find it on Google. But I'll post a link to it in the comments if you guys like. So that's it. I'll pause this and I'll open it up for questions.
All right, thanks, Dan. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can put them into the Q&A box on the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. Or if you'd like to ask a verbal question, now's the time to do that. You can click #6 on your telephone keypad to unmute your line. Okay, we got a question in the chat. Is the sample test case available with DevTest? If not, how can we get a copy of it?
Yeah, of course. I'll include it to the recording with the, I guess we'll do a recap or something. We'll post it to the communities. I'll give you a zip file. DevTest is kind of nice because these, projects, that projects directory, you can actually zip up the entire directory, and I can give that to you. So all you have to do is, let me kind of show you. So I think I have it here. Yeah, so I'll give you the zip file, which actually contains project layout, and you can really just open this in Workstation, and you'll have everything, right? You'll have the test cases, staging docs, everything you need. You'll just have to change the API key and the test case numbers, right, obviously. But yeah, that's no problem. It's pretty easy. You just copy-paste the test cases.
Okay, that will be included in the webcast recap that we post to the DevTest community later today, guys. And we also had a request for the URL to the EndtoEnd Demo. We can do that, post that in the recap as well, Dan?
Yes, let's post that in the recap because there's a new version I want to give you. There's a 3-minute, the EndtoEnd Demo, very, very cool. Even if you have, I think it's 14 or 16 minutes, and it goes through all the products, all the integration, all the interfaces. Well worth it, very nice to see. But there is a shorter, I think, 3-minute overview too, but definitely take a look. I'll give you both of them. The 16-minute one is very nice.
Okay. Another question, what version of WS and server is needed for the demo to run?
I think in version 9.5 is when we officially supported the integration. So if you have 9.5, 10.0, 10.x, that should be fine. 9.5, 9.5.1, 10, 10.1, 10.2. That should all work.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions, guys?
Okay, if you do have questions, you can reach out to me directly. You have my email. Here you can reply to the post in the communities, I think we call it the recap, right?
Yep.
Where we'll post all the comments. You can make a comment there and just kind of ping us and we'll reach out to you. If you want to, you could even open a support ticket and we can work with you through support to configure it. Like I said, just watch out for make sure you have the default project, make sure you have the API key, and your test names are the same in Agile Central and DevTest, and you should be pretty good.
Okay, and we did get one more question in. Are the URLs used in the REST steps in the test case the standard one?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not quite sure how the Rally team, the Agile Central team, does the projects. You might have your own site, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're all standard.
Okay.
I'm using rally1.rallydev.com. You might have, rally.yourcompany.com, something like that. It really depends on where Rally is deployed. But the following part is the same.
All right. Okay, so that looks to be all the questions that we have. Thanks, everyone, for asking your questions. So as Dan said, if you have any more questions you think of later, you can reach out to Dan via email. You can post in the communities. You can reply to the email or the webcast recap that we'll send out following this event. And there are tons of ways to get your questions to us, so please don't hesitate to ask. I did just put out a poll. Please let us know what you thought of the topic today, especially topics like this around integrations and new features and things like that. We'd like to get your feedback to see what you find valuable. This way we can use that moving forward to schedule out future webcasts. As we mentioned, the recording, the slides, and links to a bunch of the stuff that Dan mentioned on the call today will all be posted to the DevTest community later today. I'll also send an email out to everyone that joined, so keep an eye out for that. And we also have a few more roadmap sessions and webcasts coming up in the DevTest community in the coming months. So keep an eye on the community space for that and RSVP to any events that you're interested in attending moving forward. Okay, and I think that we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. So thank you so much, Dan, for another great presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you out in the communities, hopefully. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Mel. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.